Right, we are late this morning. Hi, everybody. Give you a little Ion music while we just sort out this live stream here. Oh, there we go. And now we're working on Instagram as well. I've got all the banners off. We're good to go. We're good to go. Let me get these comments going. Welcome, everybody, to Mornings with Scott. I'm sorry I'm late, but as usual, Instagram crashed the entire live stream, the whole show. I had to restart it, and so the team back at the Starship is deleting. What it does is when you do a false start to the live stream, it puts an episode up on YouTube or some of the different platforms, and that episode has nothing on it. Because I canceled and restarted the thing, and then you're going to get 2 episodes. It's confusing. So we're just organizing all of that. And at the same time that I am organizing that, I've just got my phone in my hand looking at some X posts, and there's a CEO of Silicon Valley who's posting here. I fundamentally don't understand OnlyFans, the porn site. Sounds good from LinkedIn. Thank you, Ashley, for joining us and for the update there. He says the scale is insane on OnlyFans. Who's paying for this and why? Then he says, what I'm hearing is it's not just about the porn necessarily. It's about having paid, quote unquote, air quotes, relationships of some sort with the creator, which makes a lot more sense to me. Makes me sad, but it makes sense. Before I thought it was just about the appeal of porn for non-porn stars, which would make sense. But break down a scale, but sexual, virtual, fake, paid relationships. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Very, very sad. Well, that's I'm just reading that on X, and it kind of made me laugh because I don't understand why people don't know that if you're on the internet chatting with some model about your fantasies, it's not the model. It's not the model responding. These OnlyFans models have factories. This is part of the trick to that business. They have factory of low-paid foreign workers, or probably to today's day and age, AI chatbots who are doing the conversation with you. You've developed a virtual relationship with some dude in India at a really low cost per hour rate, and you're paying a subscription to look at a picture or a video of some model. That's what the business is all about. You're not getting what you think you're getting, and I don't understand why people miss out on that. Now, I don't know that, except for somebody sent me a business plan on this once, and as you might imagine, and so I did, out of interest, do a deep dive into how that business works. And this fellow is right. He's absolutely right. The scale is insane. Did you see the pictures of last weekend of Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, at Mar-a-Lago? I always have to concentrate to say that word properly. So the White House of the South in Palm Beach, Trump's place, and it was interesting. Listen, I tried not to talk about this story. I tried hard. But yesterday, the entire news cycle was dominated. It was dominated by memes and by leaks coming out of this meeting. But before we talk about one of those leaks, which is the colonization of Canada, is it interesting to you that you've got Trump, who is not president? I don't know if you remember, but Joe Biden is president. Kamala Harris is vice president. Nobody hears from these people. Biden pardoned his son and then buggered off to Africa on a safari, and we haven't heard back from him apart from giving away $1 billion of your tax dollars over there for whatever reason. Not really paying attention to that. I think it's for mining rare earth minerals and connect rail connections between the mines and the slave labor. I don't know. It's all very confusing over there, and I haven't paid attention. But is it interesting to you that Trump is not president, but that world leaders are going to meet with Trump as if he is president? And with respect to Canada, it is Prime Minister Trudeau, who is barely prime minister, because everybody knows, including him, that he will not be prime minister next year. There will be an election in 2025. If he is running, he will lose. Therefore, there will be a hot swap. We'll be swapping out Prime Minister Trudeau for somebody else in the Liberal Party of Canada that can put up a real rate. And so you've got a non-prime minister meeting a non-president to negotiate trade deals. There they are. There they are negotiating. So I try not to talk about that story, but the news yesterday was all about Trump trolling Trudeau, in fact, trolling Canadians. Trudeau said to him during this dinner, according to news reports, that if we can't survive Canada, if Canada cannot survive a 25% tariff from the Americans, then maybe Canada should become a 51st state, and that Trudeau could be governor. That was the joke, air quotes joke, that Trump put on Trudeau, and then it just became a thing yesterday all over the news cycle. In fact, there was pundits on the air talking about, should Canada really be a 51st state, or should it be a 51st and 52nd state? Because if it was just 51st, it would probably be Democrat. That's not good for Republicans. So what if we divided Canada in two? The right-hand side would probably that would be the left-hand side, would probably be conservative, and the right-hand side would be liberal. That's confusing to think about. And so there was debates about that yesterday. It was just complete, utter nonsense. And to keep it going, Trump posted a AI-generated meme of him standing on a mountain with a Canadian flag saying, "Oh, Canada." And so I don't know. I don't know why the negotiation ought to be about trolling Canadians in particular. It's not Trudeau he's trolling, it's trolling Canadians. And I don't know that that's going to work in his favor. We'll find out. I do think that Trump and the Americans in general grossly underestimate the fortitude, the pride, and the combativeness when necessary of the Canadian spirit. That is my view. If only we had leadership. If only there was leadership in Canada to negotiate these things and to stand up for the Canadian people. Instead, Trudeau's there. He's whining, he's pleading, and he has no negotiation game whatsoever. He just goes and he's just singing "Kumbaya, my lord," and Trump is playing hardball. Canada needs leadership. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Is it going to be Poilievre? Is it going to be the leader of the Conservative Party? I don't know about thing. I'm going to tell you the one thing I hate about the Canadian Conservative Party is Conservative Party Canada, whatever they are. One thing I don't like about them, I'm not talking about their views on social issues or their views on economic issues. Forget all that. They never show leadership. They say in Canada that the Liberal Party, which is the Democrat Party in the US, sort of apples to apples, they say that the Liberal Party is the natural ruling party of Canada. I believe that's a self-branding exercise on behalf of the Liberals, but they say it is the natural ruling party of Canada. And the Conservatives just fall into line, the Republicans of Canada fall into line, and they just treat themselves as the natural opposition party of Canada. And so they never show leadership. They never show leadership, and it has cost them 2 elections. Instead of taking leadership on this particular issue, on tariffs and trade, and Poilievre standing up and saying, "Hey, when I'm prime minister, here's what I'm going to do." Hey, why are we not fighting back with our own tariffs or export restrictions on whatever to deal with this particular issue? Nope. All he does is says Trudeau should fix it. Trudeau's not going to fix it. Trudeau's not capable of fixing and leading this negotiation. I sent a post, an ex-post to my local MP here in British Columbia, who is a member of the Conservative Party. I said, "Hey man, what are we doing? What's the leadership on this?" I'm not a Conservative member, but what is this party going to do? You're going to be the next government. You can't just say, "Hey, the other guy." That's exactly how, if that's what they're going to do, Pierre Poilievre. If that is going to be your position, they're going to hot swap out Trudeau. You're going to get somebody with some smarts like a Carney, and you're going to have no position, and you're going to lead again because all you're doing is saying the other guy should fix it, and the rest of Canadians are going to say, well, okay, I guess the other guy's going to fix it. It's not as rhetorical and sarcastic as you think it is. I don't think it's a strategy that's going to work. Show some damn leadership, like in China. Like in China, I had a request on X from yesterday to give my views of this headline: China bans exports to the United States of gallium, germanium, antimony. Okay, let me just start by saying right up front, I have no idea how to pronounce any of these critical earth minerals that are used in all high-tech materials. But gallium, germanium, antimony. Globe and Mail reports that trade relations have been tense for months between the U.S. and China. In May, the Biden administration increased tariffs on China across the board with a broad swath of imports, including electric cars, lithium-ion batteries, steel and aluminum imports, and many critical minerals, accusing the country of unfair trade practices. In December 24, by the way, all the news on this export ban from China, which we're about to talk about, references Trump and Trump tariffs and Trump trade policies. But that's not what it was in response to. It was in response to Biden. Do you remember I mentioned he's still president? I know we forget that, but the U.S. Commerce Department just in the last day or two added nearly 140 Chinese companies to its export control list, focusing on those involved in the production of computer chips, chip-making tools, and software. The updated rules specifically target high-bandwidth memory chips essential for advanced applications like AI, aiming to prevent China's use of U.S. technologies to advance its semiconductor industry. In retaliation, China has imposed its own export restrictions. Notably, it has limited the export of key chip-making materials, including, here we go again, gallium, germanium, and antimony. Do you think I've got it right? Antimony, I think so, to the U.S. So, do you remember I said that Canada's position, I think I said this last week when we started talking about tariffs, is we need to create our own asset to negotiate away. I think our own asset should be export controls or export tariffs on critical minerals and oil. That's what it should be. If you want to ding our economy as your largest customer and your largest supplier, well, two can fight that game. And I think over the very long term, Canada gets wiped out and the U.S. wins. But in the short term, I mean, that long term is way beyond Trump's next term, and he doesn't want that. This is a negotiation. People are going to come back to the norm. Everything always comes back to the norm. But if you got one fellow, Trump, playing hardball, and another fellow, Trudeau, leader, playing kumbaya, it's not going to work out well for the kumbaya team. You need to create some sort of negotiating token. Well, here you go. China has just simply banned exports of these minerals to the U.S. And also they're looking at a ban on graphite, which is a key input for electric car batteries. Do you know I almost did an entire show on graphite mines in the world? I had that written up about 2-3 weeks ago, and then I thought, my God, could that be more boring for my audience? I just thought it was interesting at the time. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian, Jian, is in a briefing on Tuesday, lashed out at the U.S. over its malicious suppression of Chinese technological progress, according to the Associated Press. And while the United States is the world leader in AI and companies such as NVIDIA Corp dominate chip sales, China is a key supplier of many of the critical minerals needed for the technology. China ships the critical minerals to the U.S. or wherever NVIDIA is producing. They use these critical minerals to make their chips, and China owns a lot of NVIDIA chips. There's a whole secondary market in China for NVIDIA chips, in fact. Christopher Ecclestone, principal and mining strategist with Britain-based commodities researcher Helgarten & Co., I love that name, Helgarten & Co., said that while the optics of China clamping down on U.S. exports of certain critical minerals on the surface may appear alarming, in practice, it may be very difficult for China to police. That's because there's little, let's start again. That's because there's little to stop critical minerals exported from China to countries other than the United States, eventually ending up in the U.S. The U.S. has multiple subsidiaries all over the world, he says. There are no end of sleazy Swiss trading firms, Glencore, excuse me, who will swear on their mother's grave that the product isn't going to the U.S. as it's going to the U.S., Mr. Eccleston says. Having a ban where you think you can pick and choose who the recipients of the product are going to be somewhat ludicrous. So he's suggesting that there's zero chance that these export bans are actually going to work. It's more about noise. It's more about negotiations. And to cap that off, he says Canada can also help with some of the supply gaps to the U.S. stemming from the ban. What? Canada? Canada? Do you know? Do you know who has a lot of gallium, germanium, and antimony? And by the way, graphite mines, some of which I have owned. Do you know who has a lot of that? Canada. Canada, who is right now going to roll over and whine about import tariffs on critical minerals. Global Mail reports the only way to effectively break the Chinese monopoly in the critical mineral space is to stand up and build a freestanding North American critical mineral supply chain. The U.S. ambassador to Canada, David Cohen, not David Cohen, who's friend of this show, friend of mine, and has done many episodes for us. Not David Cohen, an American David Cohen, who is the ambassador to Canada, tells that we need a integrated industry for critical minerals. In other words, Canada, mine more, and we will buy it from you in the U.S. Probably Mexico too, because Mexico has a lot of graphite for sure. There's good graphite mines there. I don't know about these other minerals. So he wants an integrated system, where Trump, on the other hand, is supposedly going to blow up the integrated automotive system. Do you believe that? No, this is all posturing and negotiation. Everybody stop freaking out. While the U.S. imports 54% of its germanium metal needs from China, Canada supplies 46% of its germanium dioxide. Vancouver-based Tech Resources Limited. That's just Tech down the road from here. I'm pointing that way. I know you can't see, but that's where they've got probably 5 coal mines surround me. A huge producer, and they produce germanium dioxide at its Trail smelter in British Columbia, which is a byproduct of zinc mining that they have in Alaska. Canada has these minerals. China cannot effectively enforce these export bans because they're going to sell to Glencore or some shady Swiss trading firm, as the British commentator said. And all of this is just a negotiating ploy. Bloomberg says China's move to ban exports of rare metals to the U.S. underscores the need for trade cooperation between mineral-rich Canada and its southern neighbor. That message from the Mining Association of Canada, little self-serving, but nonetheless does not make it false, which argued that China's decision to curb shipments of gallium, germanium, and other key metals to the U.S. is a, quote, stark reminder of the challenges posed by geopolitical tensions, particularly on the reliable supply of critical minerals. Do you know what the Mining Association of Canada is not saying? It's saying, hey, we need good trade agreements on this. It's not saying, hey, Trudeau, show some leadership. Hey, Poilievre, show some leadership. How about we lighten up on the regulatory regime that kills junior mining exploration in Canada in favor of all the big guys who are not really exploring at all, but sucking the cash out of the operating mines that they already have. How about we talk to the Ontario Securities Commission and all of the other securities regulators across the country of Canada, and whatever other related regulators there are to the securities industries, the ones that are killing the investment dealer, investment banking, retail market, non-bank, well, even the bank retail market, and making it impossible for you as a retail investor to put 10 grand into some sort of small cap exploratory mining firm. That just kills the industry. What the liberals always do, what the Democrats always do, is through regulation. Their playbook here is to cut off the cash. You don't have to ban fracking in Pennsylvania. You just have to cut off the cash coming out of the big banks for fracking. You don't have to ban mining coal mining in West Virginia. You just have to cut off the cash for the entire industry. Same with junior mining in Canada. You never hear that from the Mining Association of Canada. More than half of Canada's mineral exports, valued at $80 billion CAD, call it 55 US, were destined for the US in 2022, according to the Canadian group. Meanwhile, Vancouver-based metals producer Teck Resources Limited, that I just talked about, is one of the world's largest integrated germanium producers, and said it is looking at ways to boost its output of the metal in wake of the Chinese export ban. Canada is the solution. Canada was responsible for supplying nearly half of U.S. imported needs of germanium between 19 and 22. And the 25% tariff on that is going to kill that trade. No, it's not. It's not at all. It's not at all. First of all, there'll be an exemption, right? That's the playbook. You create this asset to negotiate away, as I'm saying over and over and over again. That's the Trump negotiator playbook, the art of the deal. And the Canadian guys whine about it. That's their art of the non-deal. But what Trump does immediately is the chip manufacturers go to Trump and they're going to say, hey, we can't buy these minerals because China banned us, and it's going to cause us a problem. And he issues a waiver. You just get a waiver on that, and Canada lost its power to negotiate. So, in addition to colonizing Canada, Trump tasks Trudeau with reducing. So just coming out of the Mar-a-Lago meeting and the report that Trump was going to turn Canada into two states on the weekend, and it was also reported, and less hyped, but it was also reported that he tasked Trump with reducing the U.S.-Canada trade deficit. Canada is benefiting more than the U.S., according to Trump. That goes up and down, and it entirely depends on commodities pricing, because that's the bulk of the trade heading south from the north to the south. And so Trump says, hey, we need to fix that. And this 25% tariff, like I told you, it's not just about fentanyl. It's not just about border security. It's about whatever the hell he can get out of Trudeau or the Canadian government or the Canadian people in exchange for not putting these tariffs on. It's a negotiation. It's a deal. It's not about one thing. It's about as much as you can possibly get. That is the art of the deal. And as long as Canada keeps giving, it will never stop, ever. It will never stop. And when you have a deal, it's still not going to stop. Then there's going to be other complaints. Canada needs a hard position. And so he says to Trudeau, you need to eliminate the deficit. Well, here's an idea. Here's an idea to eliminate the deficit. The proper answer, the answer for me would have been no problem whatsoever. We can eliminate that deficit right now. I'll just turn off the oil. I'll turn off the germanium. I'll turn off the gallium. I'll turn off the antimony, the graphite. Problem solved. Problem solved. That will be a huge trade deficit for Canada. How do we like that? Oh, let's negotiate that away. That's a negotiation, folks. The only problem is Canada doesn't have a negotiator, and that is a problem. The Chinese ban is not a serious problem. There's workarounds through other countries. Canada has the minerals. This is an opportunity for trade relations between the U.S. and Canada. You wanted my take on it. There it is. And I think Canada will fail. We'll fail at that negotiation because we don't know how to execute. And I don't see anyone stepping up to be a leader on this particular situation. Where am I doing on time? Hey, Ashley, thanks for joining on Instagram. Look at Ashley, you're everywhere. You're on LinkedIn, you're on Instagram. Long chat with a listener yesterday, which was fun. I have a good friend, retired now, maybe heading into the coaching business. In fact, we may get him into the ScottSinclair.com coaching business. He may come under our umbrella. He'd be a fantastic coach for any medium and small business. Anyone that's going through some transition. He's a great guy to talk to. He's smart. He's interested. He knows his stuff. He's a good coach. And so we might be happy to have him on brand. We're going to try and work on that deal in the next week or two, but he's also a good friend. And I've also worked with him in the past. He's a lender, a private debt lender. in his past career. Remember, we talked about that all yesterday, private credit. Well, that's the world that he comes from. And when things went into trouble, I was the go-to guy to go in as the CRO, Chief Restructuring Officer, interim executive, director sometimes, to deal with that situation and to help to try to turn that business around. And from time to time, he's a listener of this show, the best damn business show for medium and small enterprises on the planet. Did I even say that at the beginning of this? I'm sorry if I didn't. I feel like that's our calling card, but with the live stream technology crashing on us, maybe I missed that entirely. Anyways, he had a long chat, and he had two bones to pick with me. One of them is he said he thinks it's really great that the content. By the way, this is a dear friend, so and he's smart. He's smarter than me probably. So I like hearing his advice. But I get advice. I get advice from friends, very smart people that I respect very much, and listeners to this show. I think I told you a couple of weeks ago I had one person I respect very much call me up, and she said, "Your content's great," and then she sent me a link to somebody else's. But you need to be more like this guy because there's way more energy, and it gets you going, and it keeps the pace flowing, and that's what you should be doing. And then an hour later, I had a call from another buddy, a very respected Canadian business executive and legal professional, called me up and said, I love your show. I love Mornings with Scott, the best damn business show for medium and small enterprises on the planet, but I can't listen to it in the morning because you're just too chipper. You're just too damn chipper and energized for me in the morning. I need to listen to the record later in the day because it just pisses me off. So you get these different feedback from the audience. Well, this fellow's feedback was that we're the best damn business show for small and medium businesses on the planet. Yet we talk about Elon Musk, we talk about Trump, we talk about these big business, big political things, and that's not really relevant to some guy just trying to run his automotive parts business, manufacturer business, or a founder, or this, or whatever. And that's a fair criticism. I would note that on the Winning Momentum podcast, and before that, the Martinis with Scott podcast, which was on YouTube, is on YouTube. You can still just look at my channel. You can go back. You can see old episodes. We had interviews. We had just me. And I didn't talk about current affairs at all. It was me going through a journey of formulating my content, the pillars, as they say in this business, of what might be interested to you. What is my message really? It takes a long, long time to try to figure that out. And I was delivering that, and we had a decent following, and everybody that listened to those episodes would come back to me and say, "Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic, that content. I learned a lot from it." But the audience was not broad. The audience was not broad. This show, I'm trying to draw on current affairs and where the energy is, right? Remember, I always talk about on my podcast that in life and in business, you need to go where the energy is. Well, the energy, the interest, the attention is in current affairs. And then what I do is I try to draw from those current affairs, from the Elon Musk stories of the world or what have you, lessons on leadership, lessons on business, lessons that match my pillars, the content that I'm trying to create, the message that I'm trying to deliver to you, which in a nutshell is that you can manufacture momentum, and there's tools to do that. And momentum is everything in business, because momentum creates energy, and energy attracts resources, both humans, people want to come work for you and be associated with you, and cash, people want to invest in a business with good momentum. That's really what it's about, that message, and it helps you earn more profit. It helps you raise capital. And my business course, my business course at thescottsinclair.com, there's a link, the Shopify link is in the notes. That's what the whole thing's about. It's 8 modules. Module 3 should be out in a matter of days here, I would think. We're shooting it later this week. Anyways, this guy says, talking about Elon Musk is not talking about small and medium-sized businesses. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm not going to change it because people love the current affairs stuff and the viewership on the live stream. Like right now, there's very few people watching live, although that just goes, if I put Bitcoin in the title instead of a mineral that no one's ever heard of, I'm going to have a decent following. But we get thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of followers on or viewers on a particular episode if you include all the shorts and everything that goes along with that. So this works pretty well. The second thing he had to say is that I've been beating up the automotive sector too much, and that is probably true. Look, I read the news every night. I prepare the show, and there's layoffs all over the world in automotive. Just yesterday, when I was beating up automotive, there was one thing I didn't mention is there was 100,000 Volkswagen employees that were protesting in Germany for the cost cutting on Volkswagen. There's CEOs leaving. There's other C-suite executives leaving. There's layoffs. There's cutbacks. There's plant closures. I have an automotive parts manufacturing firm, and our customers are down about 50% in volume. And in fact, they're exiting platforms that I'm tied to. On the other hand, competitors of mine all over the world are closing. They're just closing. They can't afford to operate, and we're getting a bunch of new business because of that. There is chaos in the automotive sector right now. But his point to me was that there's also, it's not all doom and gloom. There's tremendous upside in the automotive sector. And I want to say that I agree with him. Now, this fellow lives in Windsor and operates in Windsor, Ontario, which is an Ontario town across the river. Like literally, you can throw a baseball into Detroit. It is an automotive town, and it lives the cycles of the automotive industry, which are pretty severe. You can have complete crashes in automotive, and I think that we have been experiencing a lot of that. Right now, you can have complete turmoil, but then there will be a boom. And what he's suggesting and arguing is that in his town, and these are firms that are, tool and die, molding, that sort of thing. They're like building the molds for the automotive platforms that will be out 2 years from now. And so they're ahead of the curve. And these guys are swamped. Like the town is buzzing. They're busy. Everybody's happy, making money. I agree. A downfall of the current affair nature of this show is we're reading about all the layoffs and turmoil in the industry right now. And I know many of you are investors. Many of you investors, you're traders. We talk about stocks a lot on this. And, if you're trying to buy into anything other than Tesla right now in the automotive business, you're probably going to get hammered. And I think it's important that I say that. But if you're a lender, if you're a long-term investor into private companies, if you're talking about this whole industry, there is also the other side of this coin, which is coming out of the trough, coming out of the cycle. And that appears to be happening. And I agree with that. And I thought it important that I report some positive news. And in the spirit of not talking about Elon Musk and the fact that we're out of time, I'm going to skip the Elon Musk story today on his pay package. And so maybe we'll get to that tomorrow. Maybe we will not. Do I have any comments I need to catch up on? Hey, Zoe, thank you for joining us on Instagram, and happy birthday. I understand there was a birthday congrats that should be going out to you. No other comments I need to reply to. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for listening. This has been Mornings with Scott, the best damn business show for medium and sized businesses on the planet, Monday to Friday, 8:30 Mountain, 10:30 Eastern. Talk to you tomorrow.